atlas. She actually wanted one from day zero, right forward, but which we weren't capable of doing. But we thought having a collaborator in Paris, so we might visit there regularly, wasn't a bad thing. But she said, actually, you're going to have to get someone who knows about chicken brains, and Lewis Poyes is the person you should contact. And so Lewis came to Sydney to work with us, and it took about 5 minutes into it before we realised that we were actually out of his league, where he sat down with a pencil and just got the first photograph of the tracing paper and started saying, this is the hypoglossal nucleus, this is the tangential nucleus, and started outlining things at this speed that we were just unaccustomed to. And fortunately, we realised after a couple of days that we knew quite a bit about the construction of the three-dimensional aspects of the atlas, which we could contribute. Otherwise, as I've said to people often, it's just as if you had your first game of golf with Tiger Woods, where you thought you were pretty good, and you suddenly realised that, oh no, there's another level altogether. Lewis is, like me, trained in classical medical school neuroanatomy, which is great because he knows where people come from with a sort of human neuroanatomy background. But he's done a lot of work in comparative studies, myxinoids, reptiles, and particularly birds, because birds are such a fantastic way to study brain development. And until gene expression in mice came along, the revolution of the last 20 years, birds were the best way to do all of that stuff by far. But Lewis has then been a master of all of the gene expression techniques, and so much of what we know about what we talked about yesterday, the segmentation of the hindbrain, the segmentation of the diencephalon, and on, are things that Lewis has contributed. So, I mean, the reason I come to this workshop is that I know Lewis is going to be here, and so whatever other it would take to get me there, it does that. So I'm very pleased to welcome my friend and terrific colleague, Lewis.
So I'm pleased to come back again to Okinawa and be able to address such a usually interesting collection of young neurobiologists. This sort of talk that I am invited to give at this moment is a very sort of overview of the whole thing, both morphologically and functionally. So it's a very synthetic sort of intervention. And the general first idea is that what do we need the brain for? What is the use of the brain? Apparently, we need the brain in order to move through the world. So living beings that don't move through the world, like plants and the vegetable, and also some animals that sit on the bottom of the sea and simply open their mouth to get whatever they eat. We don't need to move through the world, then we don't have a nervous system. You may even develop a primordial during embryonic life, but if you then sit on the bottom of the sea and simply eat, then you lose your brain, so you can live perfectly well and entire life without any brain. So the brains are used if you want to move, because there are so many uncertainties in where to move to and what to evade and what to approach and so on. There are so many difficulties in solving this problem that you need the brain, and the better the brain, the better your solutions. So that's the general idea. So the motor system, what we call the motor system, is there, so to speak, the axis of the brain. So the motor neurons, you have in your body, you have a skeleton with muscle. That's the thing that can move in the world. Inside, we have a set of viscera, which keep us alive, more or less. And then inside the skeleton, we have a brain. It's the control of the whole thing. So that's the basic schema. The brain needs to control our body. First, the visceral part, controlling what the viscera do, and basically keeping us alive. That's a very important point, because if you are not alive, then it's not relevant to move in the world. So first you have to be alive. Being alive, you can be also in different states. It's important to know that being alive is not a single thing, because you can be asleep, or you can be awake, very awake, or very little awake, or you can be in coma, or you can be in different states. So there are different levels of being alive, and each one means a level of functionality even in the brain. The brain has to change from one state into the other. So you can be in coma for many weeks, and then you can awake and return to a normal level of physiology. So you can change every night from sleeping to not sleeping and so on. That means really changing the whole system to a different setting, so to speak, in order to approach whatever you want to do. Okay, so from the point of view of the nervous system, I usually make a very general schema, which you may already know. Basically, we have the reception here, we have hypothalamus here, more or less like this. This is the hypothalamus, the encephalon, midbrain, brainstem. Okay, so the brain is formed, so it's highly irregular in shape and so on, it's formed out of a tube. So when we start the embryo, we start with that. So you can imagine a tube, like that. The tube gets closed at the front, gets closed at the back. So this is the basic schema of the brain. The brain, this tube obviously has a floor. You can imagine a floor going all the way through. You can imagine the roof also. There's a roof line and the midline going all the way through. Then two lateral halves. The halves is asymmetric. And these lateral halves are divided embryologically into the basal plate and the alar plate. So you have an alar basal boundary dividing the lateral wall. Normally the basal part is smaller than the alar part, so in a large brain section where you have many things and so on, usually it bumps down, but the floor is here, the basal is here, or the rest is alar, and then you reach somewhere a small roof. So normally the alar territory is large and mostly contains practically all the important parts of the brain are alar. So in this schema, you want to insert this boundary, we can do a line more or less close to the bottom, just in order not to lose too much space. So this territory will be basal, this territory will be alar, so you can see how all the bigger parts of the brain correspond to that. What is the significance of this division? It's not arbitrary, it relates to the fact that either on the basal side you have the motor mechanism, basically this motor axis that we are dealing with, where we organize our behavior, is organized in this territory that contains basically the motor neurons, which are neurons sitting in the basal plate that will have actions going out to innervate muscles. There are, of course, striated muscle, which is this one here. The voluntary muscles. You have also the smooth muscles of the viscera for which you need an intermediate. So you need other species neurons also in the basal plate. We also call preganglionic neurons. We will have actions that will go to a ganglion, and these ganglion neurons, sympathetic or parasympathetic ganglia, they will go to a muscle, a smooth muscle in a viscera, say, for instance, intestine. So you have the effector mechanism of the brain. It is direct from motor neuron to muscle, striated muscle, also called voluntary contraction. And here you have so-called sympathetic or parasympathetic preganglionic neurons connected to ganglia, which can be sympathetic or parasympathetic depending on the neurotransmitter position, some other variables. And these are the neurons, the motor neurons, the peripheral motor neurons that because of this, the name ganglion is usually associated to sensory ganglion, and these many of my pupils, they have problems. We understand that these ganglia are motor, so it's a motor sort of ganglion. Ganglion only means an aggregate of neurons, so ganglion has no particular meaning. So this means that we have important neurons, there are important neurons in the ganglion. This is for the viscera, and this is for the skeleton, the so-called soma. Separation between viscera and soma is a bachelor's job, because normally both things are together and work together in the body. Only the bachelor who kills a pig and opens the here along the midline and takes out of the viscera and gives you pieces of the soma and gives the viscera to somebody else to make something, taboos or whatever. But in the brain has to deal with both things together. It has to obtain information for the viscera, information for the soma, and for the brain. These two things work together. So the brain somehow has to resolve that problem. Okay, so where are the motor neurons in the brain? Basically, motor neurons are segmentally arranged. We already have the concept of segment. We have a number of subdivisions, transversal subdivisions along the spinal cord. And we have a number of subdivisions I know that he doesn't like the idea of segments in the case of the spinal cord. If you don't call them segments, you call them what they want.
We're going to clear that up later.
We have going on discussion about that. But in the brain side, you have the rhodomeres, which are these sort of transversal subdivisions, going like that. Also And here the diencephalon and the hypothalamus we have what they call hypothalamic prosomere 1 and hypothalamic prosomere 2. And this expand, as you see, the diencephalon actually belongs to the hypothalamus in that way. And that's the new idea that I have been fighting for, that this is not related to that, this is related to that. So hypothalamus is not hypothalamus, it's hypotelencephalon. That's the idea. You need to change your mind. Every time you use hypothalamus, people don't want to change the word. You have to know that hypothalamus means hypotelencephalon. That's the situation. Okay, so where are motoneurons here? Well, they are sitting on the way here to the spinal cord, motoneurons throughout. Then we have in most promomiers, maybe there are some promomiers that don't lack motoneurons, but in most of them you have, let's say here, and here, and there, and here, and here. So there are more rostral motoneurons sitting in the brain and here in the midbrain, muscular one. Part of that, you can see over here that some of the transversal units may lack motoneurons, and all this is true for all the rest of the more diencephalic and hypothalamic parts of the basal plate. So what other neurons are there? Well, what surrounds the motoneurons is the interneurons. So there are a number of other neurons which are not motoneuron-like or like motoneuron, but they are associated to the function of motoneurons in the sense that a motoneuron will have long dendrites, and usually there are smaller cells all around which will be stellate in shape and will connect either with inhibitory or excitatory actions on the motoneuron. Normally, inhibitory actions are more frequent than excitatory actions, but they are both. Okay. In the spinal cord, there are many glycinergic interneurons, which are neurotransmitters not so common in other parts of the brain, but there are also GABAergic inhibitory neurons, or either glycine or GABA are the main inhibitory neurotransmitters. Here is basically the main, like everywhere in the brain, and the sort of interneurons that you have. These neurons, how are they produced? How is that we populate the basal plate in general by these neurons? Usually in the epaulet, if we take the spinal cord as an example, actually the root, this is the floor, this is the basal, this is the upper. We genetically give instructions to the mother cells, which are reticular cells here, sitting here in the so-called reticular zone, in the innermost layer of the structure. Those are motor cells dividing and creating the growth of the structure, but some of the daughter cells can become neurons. So if you give particular instructions to this cell, the neuron will produce in the next division may be of a specific type according to the instruction we give to the mother cell. Okay, so what happens is that in the basal plate we have 5 different molecular sectors. So we divide this into 5 different zones with differential gene expression here. So some of the genes may combine, so we might have a gene that goes from the midline to here, and then it's expressed throughout. But then it will combine with other genes with a different distribution, so the combination of genes will identify the molecular identity of each one sector. So all the neurons produced by these 5 sectors will combine into the cells you find in the basal plate of the spinal cord, similar for the eye. And motoneurons are produced only one of them, apparently in this one here, the second. So this particular sector is the one that obtains the combination of instructions in order to produce the type we call motoneuron. All other sectors, as I said, will produce some sort of interneurons. So these are interneurons here, interneurons there, and also there. So that's how we obtain this combined, we have here this combined setup. It is there. Okay?
I'm sorry, I got lost on the view. So
This is a cross section of one of these things. If you take one of these units, it will have as any part of the tube, you have a floor, a roof, a lateral part divided into sensory other and motor base. Okay, so we are speaking. Since we are speaking of the motor part, I am concentrating here on what happens in the basal part. So this is alar basal boundary, this alar. We will explain later why alar. Basically, it's was called alar not because of the shape here, but of the shape here. The deformation of this territory makes that the alar plate should be like this, they do that, 2 wings. And then it looks as if you have a pair with 2 wings. That's why we obtained the idea of alar. Then this will be roof. differential structure, genetic structure, basically because from the floor and from the roof we have antagonistic signals. So let's say that there are molecules spreading from the roof and spreading in a gradient ventral walls that try to make things as close as possible. So their effect is trying to dorsalize, so to speak. This is antagonized by contrary effects coming from here, which will tend to ventralize to make things as similar as possible to ventral. And the fight between those two ventralizing and dorsalizing effects leads to these differential levels of equilibrium of different genes that divides it. This is divided to 5 seconds, this is divided to 6. So we also get within the allotted differential cell types being produced by each group of mother cells with differential genetic identity, so to speak. Identities, like the correlation map we showed before, just accept how many genes you share with your companions. So all the cells within one of these packets will share the same gene expressions, more or less. And they will be sufficiently different from the next set of genes. They will have a different set of shared genes. So this set of shared genes, both expressed and unexpressed genes, which may be important not to express a particular gene. So say the control phase you need to sometimes repress specifically that this gene is not expressed in this area in order to obtain the identity. So that's why the positive values and the negative values are important. That gives a so-called identity, and this is the identity that produces a cell type. Okay, now the cell type, once the cells enter into this zone, then they can move, then they can migrate and again obtain a position which is optimal for the cell type. So the cells, some of them don't move very much, remain in position near the mothers. Some others will expand and diffuse a lot and will appear in very distant places. So that depends on the cell type. But the important thing is that we obtain the mature structure by producing separately different cell types, and then they will intermix and aggregate or whatever, essentially return for each area to produce nuclei or whatever. So that means that we, in this characteristic spatial place throughout, will have a given set of elements. Many of the genes which we find in the spinal cord here in these different combinations, you can follow all the way to the brain, through the brainstem, and even into the encephalon into here. So even though we don't any longer produce content motor neurons, further than that, in this area we produce cells analog to the other cell types that we produce, so we basically produce interneurons. And maybe we produce some new type that was not expressed in the spinal cord, and we produce it here. For instance, here we obtain dopaminergic neurons from this area, more or less. So you may have dopaminergic neurons. Those are only expressed in this area, not appear more caudally, and so on. So they may appear new cell types because of special new combinations of molecular. So I will not too much into the development, just basically so that you understand in which way, when we speak of the basal plate in general, we mean a general territory of many shared elements and many similarities in the cell types and the way to behave the neurons, but with also differences, regional differences, not the same to be in the spinal cord as being here in the brainstem or being in the encephalon or being in the hypothalamus. It's still basal in a way, shares some functional properties, but this also can be quite differentiated and quite diverse in many ways. So another way in which the brain can affect the body or the viscera in a different way than by controlling muscles, which is the typical way, is through hormones. So that happens here. That's where we have sets of neurons, both here and there. Let's imagine groups neurons like they are sitting here, that we have axons going all the way into this structure here, which is the apophysis. And from the apophysis, there will be blood vessels that will recollect, pass through, and then these products will be secreted into the blood here, and then we will be passing into the bloodstream through that way. So this is direct neurohumoral secretion. So that means a neuron inside the brain is putting things into the blood. And this thing will obviously go to the whole body, and these hormones will have different effects wherever they are. So the effects can be quite different. It's vasopressin, oxytocin, and so on, and all these hormones have differential effects. Another thing you can do with this sort of thing is to end in a different thing. You can have the hypophysis here, which is another very important glandular system we produce near the rostral end of the brain, but it is outside the brain. Actually, there's a gland. And we want to control this, is divided into so many cell types, producing different important hormones for the body. And you have also neurons not sitting necessarily here, but some of them will be here, but others may be spread to other parts of the hypothalamus, and these neurons again will come, and at some point they will finish in contact with blood vessels, and the blood vessels will bring these products, will cross this divide between what is the brain and what is outside of the brain. It's a bridge structure that will be blood vessels, that's so-called porta hypothalamic system, where the chemical things is secreted by neurons, is put into the blood, and the blood brings it. It says not to the whole body, but to a specific adenohypophysis, which is what we call adenohypophysis. These cells, of course, they are true glandular cells, so there will be blood vessels passing against them. So whatever these cells produce, they will put it into the blood, and the blood will bring it to the entire body. So it's similar to that, but you see it's a bit more complicated. So these are so-called releasing and inhibiting factors. So that these chemical factors here, what they do is they either facilitate the secretion of the product here, or they will impede it to block it. So you have either positive or negative effect of what's happening from here into the blood. But this is a more direct thing without so much control. But you may have synaptic control here. So there's an aspect of brain behavior that usually is kept apart, because one thing is studied by pharmacologists and other things are studied by physics. So it's as to very different things, but actually the brain is using it for many things jointly with the rest. So that's the way to produce behavior or state in a body. You either control the motor neuron, you control your muscles, and that means posture. So when I say that you sit like this, like that, I'm using my motor neurons and my muscles. And this is not only for static position, for keeping for a long time, a given position, but also dynamically for changing from one position to the next, and to swim and to go upstairs and so on. On the other hand, we are using preganglionic systems in order to control the ganglia, which are supposed to be more or less autonomous. That's why we speak of autonomous nervous system, because without this, this can already do some control of the viscera on its own. Actually, in many cases, they will do the ganglia will control the viscera by themselves. But in many cases, you want to be able to control it from the brain, and these neurons will be controlled by other higher parts of the brain. We will be acting on the pregangliones. Where are the pregangliones? Well, there's a set of pregangliones sitting in the thoracic spinal cord. Thoracic, that is sympathetic system. Whereas the parasympathetic ones, they are dispersed to the brain stems of the rostral most sitting here in the midbrain. Then we have somewhere here, there's here and there some other brain which are parasympathetic. And there is also the deeper spinal cord, in the sacral spinal cord, you have some additional parasympathetic for the pelvic viscera and so on. So depending on what is the function, the visceral function that you are wanting to control from the brain, you will go here, you are going into the orbit and doing something like the mouth or some control of the eye and so on. Here there will be more nasal and processes like the mouth, how do you say, the
Salivary gland.
there, salivatory gland control and so on, and this will be the major structure controlling on the viscera. So the parasympathetic control for the viscera in the body, thoracic and abdominal, and the, as I said, the pelvic one. So this is basically the output for possibilities for the brain, and depending on which orders these cells receive, they will put the brain in a particular position and in a particular movement, in a particular visceral state. So that's the axis of the whole thing. Now, what do we do in order to control that system? That's what we have in the rest of the brain. So theoretically, you can have three ways. You have sensory input. You can have state control. In the sense, for instance, that you control being awake or being asleep. So the brain controls the change from one state to another in many subtle ways, not only this basic consciousness levels, but also where you are happier, you are not so happy, you are sad, or you feel today I feel well, or today I feel a bit I have to go to work. Okay, so all these different, very subtle differentiation in state control, they appear through this part of the thing that will affect the body, will affect our mood. So then we have the so-called cognitive input, cognitive input which is coming from the world of your mind. Whatever you think, you imagine, you create in your mind, whatever is basically centered here. Our mind is supposed to be more or less here. So this creates cognition, and cognitive control gives the rest of what we call voluntary actions and so on. These are not completely separate. Usually several of these things go together, so it's often the brain is dealing with everything at the same time. Sensory input, state control, and cognitive input, and everything is working on at the same time. It's difficult to put our attention on one specific aspect, but we can separate them for the moment. What about sensory control? Well, sensory control comes from the fact that we have two levels of information. We have one level of information coming from our own body, so we have visceral inputs coming from our viscera, telling us what's happening there, and inputs from our soul, telling us what happens with the body, the muscles, the skeleton, the articulations, and so on. This input is so-called proprioception. And then we have input coming from the skin, telling us what happens on the surface of the body, the so-called somatosensory system. And then, of course, we start to have other systems like the sense of smell, which is already something happening in our nose, but telling us about what happens in the world. So that at some point we start getting into connection with the world, and the sense of smell is one of them. Also, actually, what we are measuring is what happens with even odorants as they attach to specific cells in the olfactory mucosa. But this will produce an input that will go here into the olfactory bulb, and this will do with the primary structure, analyzing this sort of sensory input, and that will be one very important. In evolution, this was the main part of the telencephalon when it started. So initially, the telencephalon started as structure analyzing. And if you take a lamprey, for instance, a lamprey brain, the lamprey brain is more or less like this. This has a telencephalon like this, and normal hypothalamus, and the rest is again similar to all the rest. So it's not very different, but here this is olfactory bulb. So that's a proportion, no? And the rest has to evolve in order to become this, or even into the human version of the same. Okay, that would be one sort of exteroceptive sensory input, but then we have vision, then we have the eyes, which actually are not there. The eyes are an outgrowth out of the hypothalamus, so actually it's a piece of the hypothalamus that has separated during development. But in this case, we are analyzing light, which is obviously informed from outside. And we have different cell types here in the retinas that will tell us with the axons what is the patterns they are obtaining. And we'll input this information in a very, very complex ordered way so that we can create or deal with images. That means with combinations of signals from here as images, more or less relevant for given aspects. And then, of course, we have then still audition, we have vestibular system, we have the semicircular canals and the utriculum sacrum, which are part of the optic vesicle that belong into the vestibular system. And then we have attached to that the cochlea in human with 2 turns and a half. And that is the auditory system. And again, these are sensory organs that will inform each one of them of particular information. In this case, there's supposed to be information dealing with gravitational impact from the Earth or on any other body on us, so it's telling us where our weight is pointing into and how much and so on. And this also with acceleration, whether we accelerate in a linear fashion or decelerate in a linear fashion or in an angular fashion, whether are we rotating or we're not rotating. All this refer to the head because we only have input from the head, so what is measured is what happens with the head. What happens with the body is secondary, so that is deduced secondary because we know the body is attached to the head. So you can see this simply when you throw a cat into the air, the cat normally against the head first, and you take a film, you see the first you put the head correctly, and then the neck turns, the body turns on the neck, and then the legs, and the last thing it arrives always on the foreleg without any problem. We do it with us, we probably will not do so perfectly as the cat because we have a poorer vestibular system than the cat. But basically we intend to do the same thing every time we stumble on something and we make falls and so on. We are doing a non-vestibular analysis and we are trying to see what happens. Okay, so you see there are separate levels of positions in the brain where we enter information of different sorts, very specialized, very highly complex, usually patterned in space and time. And so how do we deal with this sets of data? Of course, the normal sensory input is what enters the spinal cord. You know, there are sensory ganglia with the nerves, and you have sensory input that enters into the alar plate, which is the sensory part of the structure. In general, the alar territory of the brain is supposed to be analyzer of entering data. That's basically the input. The more lower you are in the brain, the more primary the data are. But there are variations, like here you have primary data entering to the frontal bulb. But usually, apart of the primary analysis, you get secondary analysis and tertiary analysis and quaternary analysis. So there's a hierarchy of structures in the brain that take up partially analyzed data from lower levels, and they analyze at the higher level and throw it into a higher structure that does again and so on. So we have different hierarchical analysis level, and that's also always done in the alar plate. So it's the analysis area of the brain. And any of these analyses can be used already at secondary, tertiary, partial levels of analysis. You can already use it for controlling the motor system. So once you have analyzed things up to here, then you can go into the motor neurons from there. If you are here, you can take data from here and go directly to the, and from here you can take cochlear data or vestibular data and go directly to motor plate. So you have access of any level of analysis into the basal plate, so that you can at any level of significance produce a response, and a more or less adequate. The more this response is close to the initial of the whole thing, the more it will be involuntary, the response, because you don't have time to think. The testing even has not yet reached the level of your consciousness, the brain is already reacting. So that means that's what we call a reflex. You do a reflex when you don't think, something hits you and then you take your brain off. You don't need to think about that. Your brain does it without you thinking at all. Reacting against a pain or reacting as a stumbling, if you stumble, it will get severe, it will fail. My muscles contract in a particular way, reaction in order to fall, which is completely automatic. And this means that I am doing one of these short pathways where the input enters, is analyzed, preliminarily analyzed, immediately. It's so important, the data, that you need to react immediately without any more analysis. But I can continue analyzing, and a bit later, after reacting, I will think about it. Say, but I did this or that. Then you can start cognitive interaction with whatever happened. Okay, so that means that you have the sensory input is complicated and needs sequential analysis as well, while we have so much space and so many dedicated centers around the alar plate. In the case of the spinal cord, I was saying basically the input itself is also called bipolar or pseudo-monopolar cell, because it looks as if it has only one process. Actually it has two. One is the sensory one that goes to the periphery and measures whatever, pain or mechanistic pressure or tact or vibration or temperature, for instance. There are many different things. And for each one of the things that you can sense, will have a different sort of mirror. So there are many different populations of mirrors there, some of them bigger, some of them smaller, and each one of them will be a specialist in a particular sense. So for pain, these pain cells, there are probably 2 types of pain cells. For temperature, these cold cells and heat cells. Nothing says that there is a thermometer that measures temperature, but it's getting colder or getting warmer cells. So they measure changing of the temperature in a specific direction. So there will be specific cells for that, and then you have a handful of cell types dedicated to more or less sensitive to pressure, delicate tact, more precise tact, dynamic tact, static tact. So there are different sorts of sensitive to when you touch something. And there's this pressure and this vibration and so on and so on. So there are many different sorts. Some of them come from the muscles, some of them come from the skin, some of them come from articulations and tendons, some come from the bone themselves and so on. And all the structures have pain. You don't feel pain in anything, because pain is just, because some people don't know what is pain. At least some of my pupils, when they come to my exams, usual oral examination, the first thing I ask them, what is pain? Well, pain is when you feel pain. No, that's not the definition. What is pain? Well, pain, you feel it, but what is pain? What is coming to you that you feel is now and not there before? So it gets difficult concept to define what is pain. Actually, pain is just a lesioning of your tissues. That means pain is telling you that some of your cells are getting dead. Simply that. Every time you can feel a pressure, as long as no cell is dead, you don't feel pain. But if you increase the pressure at some point, you kill cells. At that point, you start feeling pain. So you're measuring damage to cells, to your cells. Yeah.
But how about when there's no knowledge by the brain of a certain type of pain? For example, shocks.
Shock,
A shock.
but that's not pain, that's shock.
But people describe it as pain, so it's the type.
I mean, a strong pain can cause you shock. A shock is a reaction way of the brain. That's already on the side of reaction. Shock is a way the brain reacts to specific stimuli. There will be a particular behavior of the brain automatically enter into which may be shock. But that's already a reaction behavior of the brain to something. And pain is simply the signal telling you that it's damage. So you feel pain here, is that because of that? There are some circles we don't feel pain. Right? So if you cut your hair here, you will not pain. But if you take it out like this, then you will pain because at the bad beginning of the head, there you feel pain.
But what about amputees that experience phantom pain? So couldn't you also say that
But they are dealing with highly complex things that can happen when things go wrong. Here, I'm dealing with the brain, it's okay. And now supposing everything is okay, but you can have, in pathological cases, you can have wrong or false pain signals, of course.
But couldn't you more generalize it to say
you can,
perception of physical
because
discomfort?
the analyzer gets a wrong input or a wrong computation on, and that this wrong signal is creating a problem for you. Yeah, of course, that's part of the pathology. Everything can go wrong, dealing about. But let's assume that we are just correctly, then a pain means that your brain is some brain cells are telling you this there. And you should do something about that. That's why a pain signal enters here will automatically, if it touch here and get burned, I will not start and wait until the signal comes to make it. Immediately I touch, I will do so. That means contacting motor neurons, contacting muscles and so on, moving my hand away from the source. And then I will think what happened, why I was more. But first you draw out the hand. This one even can be controlled. I mean, the effect of the superiority, when this wants to control your behavior, you can let your hand be burned if you want. So if you decide it's very important, I'm going to get $1 million by letting my hand here, then you might choose to let your hand be burned against all your reflexes. You may say, no, I want $1 million, I wait. So you can do that. The brain can be so powerful that it can control and go against your reflexes. But this means pathways coming from here all the way there and strong inhibitory input on the inhibitory nerves. Don't take hand out of here, we want to remain with the pain. That means very strong upwards level. Okay, so that means that this sort of thing happens here. You may ask, if you have so many sensory inputs, how can I preserve meaning here? How do the cells know where is pain, is pressure, is vibration, or whatever? Because every single pathway has its separate neurons. So everything gets separated here into particular things. So you have here the dorsal horn structure, it has layers, very complex layers, and then the layers are divided into columns. So it's a real cortex. Actually, what we have in the dorsal horn or the spinal cord is a cortex, it's a spinal cortex. And that has very high computing capability. So the input enters there is directed to specific cell types, specific dendrites, specific synapses and spines of neurons and so on. And this leads to a whole very complicated analysis. And already at that level we have very complicated analysis. That means that the signals coming out of there into the basal plate that will be highly specific about what you want to do. Also, the motor neurons, they are arranged in a specific way. That means that your body, if this limit, your body is arranged like this, so that you will have your hands here, and this will be the body. So the midline muscles controlling your thorax or whatever will be sitting in a middle position. Then we'll have neurons controlling the beginning of the limbs, and then we'll have other motor neurons, and then we'll have motor neurons for the hands. So there's an order of motor neurons, and there's also a subdivision of these so-called motor neuron columns into halves, more or less separating the movement going into ventral or the movement going into dorsal. And for any articulation, I come like this or I come like that. That means I need separate neurons, although they should be close together because they affect the same articulation. Yeah, you are asking, or you are just playing around with your fingers? You are playing with your fingers, you are playing with these motor neurons.
Making sure they still work.
Of course, for the upper limb, it will be the cervical spinal column. For lower limb, it will be the lumbar spinal column. So those are the enlargements of the spinal cord. Okay, so you see that means that there will be intrinsic circuitry, very complicated intrinsic circuitry computing information within the layers and the different cell types of the dorsal component of the analyzer. Then you will have some output neurons, either a specific position where they will start producing axons going elsewhere. Some of the axons, their target is somewhere here in the basal plate. Some of them may want to go both here and there on the other side, because of any movement you need to control both sides at the same time. You may need the help of interneuron sitting here, and we take these signals. We pass the signals coming to the upper limb, to the lower limb, because frequently we want to do things in a correlated way, so you want to have the lower limb knowing what is happening up, and so on, and then vice versa. And then there's a third set of projection neurons here that will take the analysis, will send it up to some of the upper levels. So this is just local use of the data, immediate reflex activity that will resolve the problem, probably, hopefully. And the other system is that we need from each of our things to go up. Where are we going? Basically, we are going all the way to the thalamus, which is one central receiver of sensory input. So all the segments in the spinal cord, all the segments in the brainstem, liver and so on, as far as they sense anything and they compute anything, they will send copies into thalamus. And the thalamus will be divided into a set of nuclei. We don't enter now how many, but they will be also specialized. So there will be some of them specialized in somatosensory input, pain input, temperature input, and so on and so on. Each pathway will be a separate pathway dedicated to this particular input. So there's not only one single skin pathway, there are like a dozen different skin pathways in parallel or going in parallel and going to specific nucleus, and this specific nucleus will go to the cortex, and the cortex again divided into many units, and then again all of them will go to one specific place of the cortex, and will distribute the different signals that it has in order here. It will distribute into a planar fashion into different columns of the cortex, so that the cortex can analyze point by point whatever is happening in the body or in the viscera. So that's the basic scheme. So that's how you have. The thalamus is not properly an analyzer. It doesn't do any analysis. It just collects data, maybe cleans a little bit the background, increases the contrast of the signal, cleans a little bit if there is too much noise somewhere below the signal. So it cleans a little bit using intermittents, but basically it simply transfers in order way the data into a specific target in the cortex. So this happens both with whatever we obtain through the sensory nerves in the somatosensory ganglia in the spinal cord, also with any input coming already, including the auditory vestibular input from this. In this case, it's interesting to see that in many cases a single ganglion neuron, as happens also in the spinal cord with these neurons here, I didn't speak of that, but you can extrapolate what I'm going to tell you for the neurons when they enter here, meaning that they will divide into ascending and descending fragments. So normally the first thing one afferent fiber does is to divide. The first thing it does when it enters. What is the meaning of this division? That it can give collaterals to different levels. And this is what's happening here again. So any single neuron divides into ascending and descending branches. And that means that it reaches different segments. So this set of neurons, this set of neurons, this set of neurons, and so on. Different sets of segmental units will be receiving a copy of the same signal. They will be giving synapses or around the fiber. So all these neurons will be getting the same, a copy of the same signal, but they are different because they are in different segmental units. So they are, all of them, cochlear receiving neurons, they are different in a functional way. So when a physiologist picks them up with an electrode probe, what is the neuron measuring for a given sound? The sound in time goes like this. So you produce the sound and you stop the sound. You will see neurons in one of these units that will attend to the beginning of the sound, and then they will not be interested anymore in the rest. There will be another that will be interested in the ending of the sound. We signal just with the end of the sound. There will be another that will measure the intensity, will be something like that. So they are all sort of combination, and this is how it's controlled that different neurons react to different aspects of the signal is by giving the signal to different segmental, different sets of neurons. Each one will do its own sort of analysis, so that in this way you can, with one single axon, you can obtain many different outputs, very different messages out of the same signal. And this happens in particularly in every case that an input enters the brain. It happens here, you say up and down, and this goes 4 levels up and 2 levels down. That means that any signal coming through one nerve reaches 6 different levels of the spinal cord. And at each different level, it will find slightly different zeros, and they may obtain some specific source of information. Same happens for the vestibular. Only vestibular system is longer, so you think that from here, we come here and they go all the way to room number 1, and they go all the way to room number 10, more or less. So the vestibular column is, so that's what we call a column, a sensory column, is longer than the cochlear column, which is short. This will be the cochlear one, and this is the vestibular. So you have 12 segments of the brainstem reacting to any single neuron on the vestibular ganglion sending in an input. But that gives so much bigger richness of the analysis that we would have otherwise. Normally in classical neuroanatomy, that's a point that we did not go far enough, so that in classical analysis, vestibular nuclei is divided into 4, so-called superior, medial, and lateral here, and descending there. And that's too primitive. Now that we understand why people never were able to understand physiologically what happened with the signal transduction in that pattern, because the analysis into 4 nuclei is too simplistic. You cannot simply do it. We have counted with some other genetic difference on. Actually, this sort of arrangement means that there are at least 60 different vestibular nuclei, or cell population. We are probably different. So with 60 different analyzers, probably then you can understand what is the system doing with the signals. It's putting every single signal into 60 different computers, each computer dedicated to one particular aspect of the signal. And that's what is the analysis of vestibular function. So this analysis can be quite sophisticated. And that from there, as we say, we can go directly into reflex reaction. So you are falling, then vestibular system tells you your gravity is going to break you down your equilibrium, so you react automatically contracting the opposite side of the body and so on. So you can get immediate reflex reactions, similar to what you got there. But on the other hand, we have a pathway that we go again into thalamus into cortex, and so on. So there's a same story for everything. Therefore, there's an auditory. The auditory pathway does have previous stopping, so there's a pathway from the auditory nuclei. We usually color. There will be an auditory projection going through here, and then through here, first into midbrain. So this is a sort of preliminary deposit for the data in the midbrain, where you can do some additional analysis. So this again divided into layers, and you can get analysis of what happens with each different tone that we are sensitive to. There are some accessory centers there that will obtain collaterals of the input, and will do also their own operations there. So midbrain, auditory midbrain, inferior colliculus is also an analyzer for audition. And this information, of course, in audition, you can not only analyze what is the frequency of a sound, which, as you know, is the distance between each tip of a wave. You can measure the intensity of sound, which is this dimension there, and you can measure also what is called the timbre. You say timbre? How do you say in English? Timbre. Timbre, which is, you can realize whether a note is sounded by a trumpet or by a barrel. You recognize that. What is that? That is the physical property that every natural thing like this, it sounds like wooden, it sounds like metal, and so on. So each material produces a particular way of reacting to produce sound, and that's what is used with the different instruments. And that means actually that there is no pure sound ever. So you get this line plus this line plus that line, and this particular combination is what sounds wooden or sounds metallic or sounds plastic or sounds crystal or whatever. This sound for children, for childhood, we learn to recognize this combination. We say this is wooden, this is metallic, because we analyze the combination of sounds, which are characteristic for the sort of materials. And then for specific, you can distinguish a violoncello you are putting music from a violin, because there are particular aspects even between particular family of instruments and so on. And a saxophone, a trumpet, or so on, or for a clarinet. So you can recognize wooden instruments by themselves. So this is another aspect of what is being analyzed in the sound system. And another point, which is very important, that is done by accessory structure, is where is the sound? Where is it spaced? Is it to the left? Is it to the right? Is it approaching me or is it going away? All these aspects of sound is down, but are very important for survival, are analyzed also here by secondary analysis. There's so-called superior olive centers, which are more or less here, and trapezoid body centers, which are more or less there, and the signals it passes through, they get collaterals, and these neurons can do the analysis. Okay, this sound is being analyzed as a sound, beginning and amplitude of sound and so on. All this done already from neurons here, and now these start to do, okay, where does it come from? Do we hear it more strongly from this side, or more strongly from that side? What is the distance to me? Is it changing time or not changing time? All this sort of additional analysis done here. And then they add the actions to these pathways that it also goes there. So that this action receives also the spatial and temporal analysis. And then we have a set of nuclei on the pathways, so-called lateral lemniscate, that are less understood. They do additional analysis, don't know what they do. As far as I know, no one knows yet what is the function. They also receive collaterals from all the others, and they do the additional analysis, and they enter the output into the paper. So this collects all this analysis into those fields, and then we have a site on the commission there, and then they will come to the thalamus again. Okay, you see at the end we reach the thalamus, and the thalamus is the door to enter the cortex. So this is the division, the auditory cortex. So you see the signals that come up to the cortex are already quite analyzed. They have already highly analyzed, but still the cortex can do more analysis on top of that. So that's when you enter into recognizing the human voice, and is this voice, what it's doing, is taking something, or it's singing, or it's sounding irritated, or is it my mouth? So all this analysis is penencephalic, it's cortical. So listen, I don't know what is your mouth. No, here you learn that it's your mouth, okay? Or your friend or whatever. So that means that this is the way to think of this whole thing. What happens with the visual input? Let's do some red on top of that. Here you have the visual input coming from the retina, basically from the ganglion cells in the retina. These cells, they receive already highly analyzed input because you have before the photoreceptors. These are the ones that really sense light in a way. Photoreceptors connect with bipolar cells. Bipolar cells connect with ganglion cells. So we have already, the retina is itself also a cortex. So we already have a cortex in the eye that does its own analysis, and in some animals they say that they are able to recognize biological signals. They say this is a famous paper, what the frog eye tells the frog brain. That was one of the important early cybernetic papers trying to understand how this information is controlled and so on. And there is the conclusion that frogs already can recognize at the level of the eye a fly, which is a biological stimulus for them because they eat flies. So the retina already will recognize fly, that is a fly. The analysis is done here. In our case, apparently our retinas don't do that level of analysis, so we don't reach the level. We still only analyze points of color and points of light and so on, so we don't recognize that anything is a fly or whatever. But in any case, these patterns of signal are sent into the brain. What happens with these signals? So they do something similar to this sort of divergence into different units, but you have separate analyzer, parallel analyzer. The optical pathway goes like this, and it's here. And along this whole pathway, it gives endings here and endings there, but in several places, and then it's there, and it's there, and there, and then here, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there. So there are quite a list of so-called retinorecipient centers in the brain, all of them receiving signals from the eye. Not from a single cell will not connect with all of them, so there are some specialties. Given names, you say cell type A will go to here and to there only. And cell type B will go from this and that, and there will be particular combinations, so that particular signals from the eye go to particular centers and more specialized. Some of them are dedicated only to where there's light or there's no light, measuring amount of light. That's a very basic analysis that you can mix around the pathway because you only want to see how much light there is. For what do we need that? For what? This center here is analyzing amount of light, and this another, because that is our clock. It's the biological clock in our brain. So this neurons need to know the level of light in order to put the clock in time. So when we have a maximum light, it's midday, and minimum light is midnight, biologically. Now in our life we get light in other conditions as well. But biologically, for what genetically we are prepared, this can work automatically because if we do a so-called circadian rhythm by itself, and it will be controlling everything that happens here in the hypothalamus. There will be signals from there going to all of these very important sensors, controlling our life cycles and so on, indirectly affecting on the rest of the brain. And although this is automatic, it tends to go off time if it's left alone. So it needs to be checking with how much light there is, and this is one use of the information on my eyes. To put in time, like for instance, yesterday I was in Spain, and needed to fly a number of hours here, so I am probably out of time, so my clock right now is taking all the light it can in order to put my clock system back into normal. Okay, and what is another use? Another use is here. For instance, this center here uses again amount of light, in this case to control our pupils. Our pupils can dilate more, open, and obtain more light or obtain less light, depending on the level of illumination, and that's a basic control of our sight. We need to control how much. If you get too much light that you cannot see, you tend to little light you cannot see either. So you need to regulate that. So that's another use, completely different physiological use, and that's done in a different analysis. Also, we analyze simply how much light, and then the connections will be different. Because once we will controlling the muscles that control the pupil in order to close or open it, this will be done through one of these ganglionary systems, because the pupil is like this, it's smooth muscle inside the eye, so it needs a ganglion in the orbit, it needs a preganglionic neuron in order to control the ganglion, to control the pupil. So what you have is an analyzer for light level. When the light goes up, then the signal comes up into this, and the neuron will say more, and this will close. So that you have this closes when you get too much light, and when the impulse occurs, then late. There are some additional complexities, but this typical central reflex for pupillary light reflex, this is completely unconscious. You never think whether you are closing or you open your pupil. Simply, this is more or less perfect. But that's the general sequence. So the basic idea I wanted just to draft into you with this sort of schemata is that basically, although the system may be quite diverse, they tend to do similar things. They enter the data, which are very complex data, and the data, first thing is they distribute into different specialized cell groups that are specialized for particular aspects. In this way, we can use a lot of the information in separate ways. We produce this separate analysis, either there in layers or here in nuclear or somewhere else, and then through a pathway we can still add additional analyzer structure that will still continue analyzing, and we reach different distributor elements that will also interconnect one with another, and then we have a big distributor, central distributor, the thalamus. We send it to the cortex in a areal specific, actually point-to-point way. That means that if this contains so many points, a particular point here will go to here, and a particular point there will go to the opposite side. So this order, the order that you have here is kept in the projection, and that happens through all these systems. All of them are, is very importantly, are ordered in space. So that means that they are reproducing faithfully the world or your body, whatever they are sensitive to. So they are representing internally in an ordered way whatever is their reality and whatever they are attending to. Of course, if there is a feature that you don't attend to, because you don't have the sense to attend to that, then you don't feel it. You only feel whatever you have sensors for and so on. This can change during evolution, so that means that the animals can sense aspects of the world that we can. For instance, there are electric fish that can measure electric fields in the environment to their bodies, and we cannot do that. And so on and so on. There are animals like serpents that they can measure heat from their faces, and so they look at you and they are not looking with the eye, they are looking with these areas here, and they are seeing you through your heat, whatever the heat you're producing, and they are seeing your heat. And that's how they obtain the rabbits and the mouses to eat and so on, through the eye. And so on and so on. There are many specialties in the list of animals in the world, because animals have been adapted to particular ways of life and so on. And we are a particular case where we are animals, we have relatively lost a lot of our primitive olfactory system. As mammals, we are supposed to be good odorant animals, but we are in the line of mammals that practically lost it. There are others that completely lost it, like the whales. The whales have lost completely, not have olfactory bulbs in the brain, they lose that completely. But we have small olfactory bulbs, we compare with a pig or compare with a dog or whatever, they have huge olfactory system, and they can therefore measure the olfactory complexity of the world much better than we can. Depending how good your system is, you can be better or less good at this sort of thing in each case. So we are, as animals, rather good in vision, and we are rather good in audition. Apparently because for a time we were trying to hide from dinosaurs, and all these million of years of prevalence of the dinosaurs made us very intelligent animals to hide somewhere and then be attending to with your hearing to where they were coming or not coming, or when you were looking to see where they're coming and so on. So we became very auditory, very visually, very perfect animals, and that once the dinosaurs disappeared, suddenly the world was for us. That's the explanation why we mammals are here, and why among the mammals, primates and humans in particular are here. So why? Because apart of all the mammals having all these things in common with us, we also developed the big central analysis, so that we are coming now to cognitive. So now we have an idea of what happens with sensory input, and how from these different levels, but not from the thalamus, you can produce already a motor output from each level, from the midbrain, from protector, from prethalamus, from hypothalamus, from every single level. If you have sensory data, you can send it into motor plane and produce behavior, change of state, or hormonal differences, or motor differences in the body, or whatever. So this is the common. So for that's where the segmental structure going from alar plate into basal plate operates in order to have independent access to the motor system through any part of the analysis system. So you don't need to go to a specific part to react. Every single part is autonomous to do whatever it can automatically without countering with the others. But it's convenient if they can, they will interrelate, will share data, that they will do things in a better way. So there are several levels of your reaction to the world or to your body state, depending on how much time you have. It's basically the situation. Okay, what happens with state control? Let's say just a little bit of that. The same as we have a way to react to the world through hormones, we should have ways to measure hormones and measure chemicals in the blood and so on. So we are changing the blood concentration of given substances. We also should have sensors. That is less well understood, but we do know that there are several places in the brain where you have areas that sense directly neurons touching the plasma, blood plasma, and somehow measuring things there. And so we know the brain measures the concentration of hormones in blood. That's how we can react to increase or decrease in particular hormonal levels, because there are apparently dispersed neurons here, sitting somewhere in the hypothalamus that have one dendrite crossing the frontal entry into cephalorachidal nucleus, or crossing or touching so close the blood vessel membrane that they can sense what is happening inside the blood. There are so-called fenestrated blood vessels in some places of the hypothalamus, which means that the wall of the vessel has holes. So the vessel is leaking, actually, it's leaking plasma into the neighborhood. Also the aglial